Hey there! Did you know Baker's always gives you savings and rewards on top of our lower than low prices? And when you download the Baker's app, you'll enjoy over $500 in savings every week with digital coupons. And don't forget fuel points to help you save up to $1 per gallon at the pump. Want to save even more? With a Boost membership, you'll get double fuel points and free delivery. So shop and save big at Baker's today. Baker's, fresh for everyone. Savings may vary by state. Restrictions apply. See site for details.
Hi everyone, I'm Deb Flashenberg. Welcome to Yoga, Birth, Babies, a podcast produced by Prenatal Yoga Center. We will be diving into everything prenatal yoga, birth, and baby related, hoping to inspire, educate, and empower you through your journey into motherhood. Thank you for listening.
Hi, I'm Deb Flashenberg. I'm your host of Yoga Birth Babies, and today we have a really beautiful birth story that I'm so excited for you to hear. I don't want to go too into the details in the intro because I want you to hear how the story unfolds from my guest. But one thing to think about as you're maybe going through your own pregnancy or birth experience is the importance of a flexible mind. Just in class yesterday, I had a student, Colleen, who was feeling very tight in her hips and concerned that that's going to affect how she gives birth. And I was saying, you don't need necessarily a flexible body, but a flexible mind. And my guest, Rikki, really demonstrates that as she worked with the twists and turns and had a really beautiful experience. You'll hear her talk about, even though it wasn't the birth she envisioned, it was beautiful and supportive and peaceful. And I think that makes a huge difference. And it's something I'm really excited that she's going to talk about. Let me tell you a little bit about my guest. So she has a Danish name. I'm going to try not to butcher, but I probably am. Rikke Le Kirkegaard. She is originally from Denmark. She lives in New York City and has since 2019 with her Italian husband. And I love the story. She met him in a youth hostel in Mexico back in 2010. And then they got married in a cocktail bar in Melbourne on her 30th birthday. She works for UNICEF and she's toured Tanzania and all over the world for the last 4 years. And I'm really excited for you to hear Rikki's story. I'm not going to go too much more into detail because she shares everything so beautifully. But before we get to Rikki's story, I just want to talk about what's happening at Prenatal Yoga Center. So we're still working and offering our classes 7 days a week online, 6 days a week in studio. And my vision of having matching classes of all our workshops that are in person or online has come to fulfillment. So if you can't make any of our workshops that we offer, check out our on-demand library for that. I'm not going to go too much more into detail because there's so much you can look at on our website, and I know you want to get to the story. But before we do that, I want to just talk about last 2 things happening at PYC. And I almost said this year because as a mom of 2 school-age kids, I think of everything as a school year. My year begins in September and ends in June, and then we have the summer, which is kind of a free-for-all. So as we kind of wrap up this school year, we've got one in-person prenatal yoga teacher training and then one postnatal yoga at the end of May. So if you're someone that wants to support the perinatal community, check this out. We go so much more in depth than just what poses to offer, what asanas to offer. We really look at the whole person. How do we support someone through the ups and downs, the turbulence? How do we see them for where they are and help them have the birth that they envision? And then on the other side, support someone as they're recovering, recouping, and finding this new footing as a parent. So if that resonates with you, check out our website, prenatalyogacenter.com, and look at our teacher trainings. Okay, the last thing I'm going to do is just simply thank you. Thank you for being part of our community. Thank you for being a listener. I'm excited for you to hear this story. We're going to take a super quick break. When we come back, enjoy Rikki's birth story.
Hey there! Did you know Baker's always gives you savings and rewards on top of our lower than low prices? And when you download the Baker's app, you'll enjoy over $500 in savings every week with digital coupons. And don't forget fuel points to help you save up to $1 per gallon at the pump. Want to save even more? With a Boost membership, you'll get double fuel points and free delivery. So shop and save big at Baker's today. Baker's, fresh for everyone. Savings may vary by state. Restrictions apply. See site for details.
Hi, Rikki. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing great. I am so excited. So, listeners, let's kind of give you the heads up. We have tried like 5 different ways to start this. My normal Zencaster wasn't recording. Now we're in Zoom with multiple headphones. So, yay, we're finally going to get to hear Rikki's birth story. Woohoo! All right. So, before we jump into your story, I want to learn a little bit more about you. First of all, will you tell me how to properly pronounce your name? Because my American tongue is not doing a good job with your Danish name.
Don't worry, you're not the only one. So in Danish, it's Rikke, but I'm universally known as Rikki.
Okay, so Rikki it is. All right, so tell me a little bit about yourself.
Okay, well, I'm from Denmark. I came to New York around 5 years ago with my husband, who I met in a youth hostel in Mexico back in 2010. We did long distance for almost 7 years, and then I moved to Tanzania working for UNICEF, which I'm still working for. And he finally followed me in Tanzania. We moved to New York together to start our family here. And we finally had our baby daughter in April last year.
Oh my goodness, I love that story. And it's so unique. I will always remember that. So let's jump into, I guess, your pregnancy journey. So I know your pregnancy journey was tough in the beginning. Would you mind sharing your experience and then when you finally arrived at Prenatal Yoga Center?
Yes, absolutely. So we started trying at the end of 2020. Fortunately, it didn't take too long. So I fell pregnant for the first time in February 2021. Unfortunately, that turned out to be a pregnancy of unknown location. My doctor felt pretty certain that it was an ectopic pregnancy, so I had to take a shot of something to get rid of it, and then we had to wait 3 months before we could try again. Then after that pregnancy, after waiting the 3 months, I thankfully got pregnant again on the first try, and everything looked great. So we got towards the end of the first trimester. I had my NIPT. Everything looked normal. It was a boy. So we were thinking, okay, it was just the first hiccup. Went back to Denmark to visit family. And then when I came back for a checkup at 16 weeks, it was a miscarriage. And apparently it stopped growing more or less after my last scan at 12 weeks. So I'd walk around with a dead baby inside for that month. So had a DNC, and then we were just eager to start trying again. I think partially maybe also just a process, like if I get pregnant again quickly, it will all be better. So I got pregnant again on the first shots after having had my first period. And I found out the day before we were traveling to Mexico for a wedding. So since I'd had the ectopic pregnancy, every time I got pregnant, we had to go in very quickly to make sure that it was in the right location. So we had to go to a doctor in Mexico. And I had this really bad pain on one side. So it turned out that I had a big cyst, but at least, it was a pregnancy inside the uterus. Everything looked great. Came back to New York and went to my doctor. And from the beginning of that pregnancy, things weren't looking very good. My progesterone was very low. I had the big cyst. The yolk sac was big. There were just a lot of things. So I thought from the beginning, like, this is another miscarriage. It's not happening. But then every week, thankfully, my doctor was very kind and let us come to very frequent checkups because both of us were just so nervous. We got to the same point where the last pregnancy had stopped growing. So I asked, can I have an extra check? So we went in at the end of 11 weeks. Everything looked perfectly normal. Had the NIPT. It was again normal. It was another boy. So I was thinking, okay, maybe I'm just one of those stories where everything looks terrible, but in the end, they work out all right. And then we went to the nuptial translucency scan at the hospital. And then the same thing happened, that it was a miscarriage and the fetus had stopped growing, literally in those few days between the two scans.
Wow.
Yeah. Then, so that was 3 losses in 1 year, less than 1 year. So I looked for a pregnancy loss support group and met some people there and just took some time to process everything and spent more or less just 6 months doing tests, like all the tests you can imagine, biopsy, hysterectomy, everything. And ended up finding an MFM that I think is considered a little bit controversial. But he was looking into immune factors and different kind of blood clotting factors that are not part of like the standard recurrent pregnancy loss panel. And he at least found some things that he thought would explain it. Not one reason, but a lot of risk factors coming together could have given that outcome. So then I got pregnant again after 6 months, and everything looked normal. We got past the first trimester. It was a girl, and I think for both of us, I felt a bit like, okay, maybe it was something related to boys, and with the girl be different. And then we got to the anatomy scan, and they found some fetal calcifications in her liver. So just as we thought, like, we're finally there, we can finally start believing in it, then they found something else, and we had to go through more tests. I had an MRI, and then we were scheduled for an amniocentesis because everything was normal, but they were like, the last thing, that you can consider when we find something not normal in scans is if it's a genetic factor, so you can consider doing amniocentesis. And so I had actually scheduled that. And then the same morning, we just agreed, like, no, we can't do it. Like, we've just, I was first of all so far into the pregnancy, like, even if they found something, I don't think they could terminate it. And then I just felt that the pregnancy was so fragile and it finally come so far. So, of course, I would be the one and whatever that ends up having a miscarriage because of an amnio. So we canceled that amnio. And then I think after that, there was sort of the decision, okay, we're so far almost the third trimester, this is happening. I can allow myself to be pregnant and enjoy it. And that's when I came to the prenatal yoga center and let myself do prenatal yoga.
Oh, wow. That must have been, I know we're going to hear your birth story, but just trying to process this of being amongst so many other pregnant folks and allowing yourself to feel a part of that after so many losses, and then waiting to be like, okay, I can really be here. That must have been so many emotions, like just the word huge, is because you allowed yourself to then be in that community surrounded by so many people that also didn't know your story and background. Wow.
Yeah, it was quite intense, and quite a relief in a way to finally be like, okay, I am pregnant. I'm almost there. I'm allowed to enjoy it. I'm allowed to be visible. Like I didn't tell anyone, so I was 6 months pregnant. Like, I was very small, no one could see. So that was literally the only place where I told anyone out loud, like, hey, I'm pregnant.
That's exciting. And thank you for being part of our community for that. So with several losses behind you, how are you feeling throughout the pregnancy? Because I know it took you a beat to get to be like, okay, everyone, I'm pregnant. Yeah. How did you, I guess, cope with all of that? Cope with the waiting until you felt safe, and then cope with, I don't know, maybe I'm projecting the anxiety about waiting to get to the end to like have baby in your arms.
No, but you're right. I think I felt a little bit of that anxiety until the end. So thankfully, physically, I had a very good pregnancy. I mean, I was on a very intense treatment protocol. So, I had to inject myself with Lovenox, a blood thinner, twice a day. I had to take some different medicine. So it was always a bit in my face. But at least physically, like, I was not very nauseous. I didn't have a lot of complaints. So I was able to stay very active and continue living my life. And I think for me, it was incredibly important to be physically active and to keep going about my things. I felt like if this is going to end up in another pregnancy loss, I don't want to have put everything on pause, because I felt like I had spent the majority of the year before being pregnant all the time and not eating my unpasteurized cheese and not having my wine and all of this for nothing. So I think I just felt like, okay, I will just keep on going, keep and do the things that I do. And that really helped me. So I danced like 10 to 15 hours per week throughout my pregnancy. I went to yoga. I did my last dance class 36 hours before giving birth.
Oh my God, I love that.
I think that was really therapeutic for me. I think I just had a lot of FOMO as well, but it kind of helped me just to do things. We went on a hiking trip to Utah when I was 7 months pregnant.
Oh, wow.
So I think all of this that helped me, clearly because all of my losses were discovered on scans. I never felt that anything was wrong. Every time we went to a scan, I was so nervous, and my husband came with me to every single appointment. And I think somehow I still thought until the end something was wrong. And I didn't even really think that there was a baby inside. I still kept thinking something will go wrong. But I think as we got closer to the end, I really started believing in it. And I thought this is going to happen. But I think just living my life, not having a baby shower, not doing all of those preparations kind of kept me a bit sane. I just needed to focus on other things.
Right. That makes total sense. So then a fun twist, you found out your baby was breech. Surprise! So what was that like when you found out your baby was breech?
Well, she was more or less breached the entire second half of my pregnancy. So it's not that I came to one scan and it's like, oh, of course she turned around. She was just stuck.
Never turned, yeah.
Just never turned. And she seemed really, really comfortable in that position. And I remember going to some of your classes and speaking to people there. Ellen was like, don't worry, you have plenty of time, it will happen. And I just had this feeling, no, I just don't think so. So it was just more, of course, after all the other things, she also needs to be breached.
So what were some of the things you tried to turn her?
I think it's more what I didn't try.
You're like, I was hanging upside down like you did. I mean, I know you did a lot.
Yes, I think I spent the last 2 months of my pregnancy, maybe an hour or two every day, doing things to make her turn. So I did acupuncture once a week. I went to the chiropractor twice a week. My husband was burning moxa next to my pinky toe. I was lying upside down doing spinning babies, and we would move heat and cold packs around my belly, play some music that I was listening a lot to. Literally, I tried everything. And I remember every time I was lying upside down on my sofa, I could just see her head popping out of my belly, turning around from side to side, almost just mocking me.
Wait till she's a teenager. Then she's really going to mock you. She's starting early. Oh my goodness. So I know you and I did have some time to connect about coming to grips with changing your vision. So I know a C-section was not how you envisioned your birth. How did you process and come to terms with this different birth option?
I think, yes. I remember a few days after my last class, a few days before giving birth, you came up to me and you're like, I'm sensing that you're not feeling great about what's about to happen. And I think for me, after everything, I just wanted to have this natural birth with my 1 hour with the baby on the chest and just immediately bond. And I was just sure that a cesarean birth would take that whole natural aspect away, and I would have to wait for that moment. And so that was really hard for me. And I had an ECV scheduled twice, and both times I canceled it. And I think that maybe more than the cesarean birth, it was maybe the fact that I couldn't go through with that. Somehow it was really difficult for me to process because I had thought so much and I had been through so much pain with my 3 losses and my pregnancy up until that point. And then something so stupid, and I'd read all the papers, it was perfectly safe, but I just couldn't do it. So that was just really, really hard for me to accept that, because I didn't give that last try, that last shot. I had to have a cesarean birth. So I think up until I gave birth, I hadn't really processed it, but I thought, okay, at some point, I just had to accept that this is what will happen. And so I listened to a lot of your podcasts, both on processing your birth story and C-sections. And I just thought, okay, I want to have a C-section, at least let me know where I can put my imprint. Let me prepare as much as I can. And it really helped both to understand what I was going into, speaking to other people about their experiences with a C-section and kind of some of the things that they had hoped and that they didn't get. So, I listened a lot to stories about gentle C-sections or family-centered C-sections and wrote down a birth plan based on that. And thankfully, because it was a scheduled C-section, I had my OB and she'd been, with me through at least my last 2 pregnancies. So she knew everything. And I think for her personally, it was really important to give me a good experience. So by preparing the birth plan and kind of thinking, okay, at least I'm going to try and make it as good an experience as possible, that was really important. But then I think it wasn't until a while after I gave birth, in the end, I had a really positive experience. And I think it wasn't what I had expected. It was really positive. And I think just looking back and thinking, okay, I don't know what a vaginal birth would have been like, but I have a lot of friends that didn't have a particularly positive experience. And I can't really say that I did. It was very positive. It was just not what I had originally thought. But I think at least thinking I've done everything that I can, and I've done everything that I can to shape that experience, that helped me. And then honestly, also now, looking at my daughter, I'm just thinking that there's no way she would ever have turned. Like, she is so stubborn. It just had to be like that.
I think sometimes babies do know. I think for whatever reason, she just had this sense. Maybe it was I think babies know how they need to be born. Like, I know that sounds so corny, but I think we need to put a little trust. Like, I've had clients and students that have had the ECV and the baby's turned head down and then the baby went back. And
that's what would have happened, I'm sure. I think that's just how she needed to be born.
Yeah,
and so
I completely
now,
understand.
looking hindsight, I'm like, okay, that's how it had to be.
I completely agree. Okay, I want to hear a birth story, but before we do that, we're going to take a super quick break. When we come back, I want to hear your story. All right, we'll be right back.
Hey there! Did you know Baker's always gives you savings and rewards on top of our lower than low prices? And when you download the Baker's app, you'll enjoy over $500 in savings every week with digital coupons. And don't forget fuel points to help you save up to $1 per gallon at the pump. Want to save even more? With a Boost membership, you'll get double fuel points and free delivery. So shop and save big at Baker's today. Baker's, fresh for everyone. Savings may vary by state. Restrictions apply. See site for details. Hey there! Did you know Baker's always gives you savings and rewards on top of our lower than low prices? And when you download the Baker's app, you'll enjoy over $500 in savings every week with digital coupons. And don't forget fuel points to help you save up to $1 per gallon at the pump. Want to save even more? With a Boost membership, you'll get double fuel points and free delivery. So shop and save big at Baker's today. Baker's, fresh for everyone. Savings may vary by state. Restrictions apply. See site for details.
Okay, so we are back. So let's hear the whole story, because I love that you're saying it turned out to be a positive story. So I'm all yours.
All right. Well, we went to check up at 38 weeks. And up until that point, I planned to do the ECV. So I didn't have a date for any planned C-section. So we went to this appointment. And my OB was like, okay, well, next Thursday. So both of us were like, oh no, we're not ready. And we looked up the date. My husband, for some reason, he's really obsessed with dates. So he looked up important dates, like important historical figures that were born on April 20th, which he was supposed to be. And it was Adolf Hitler. Both of us started thinking, oh no, this is going to be terrible. Like, we have 1 week. It's going to be Hitler's birthday. Like, this is terrible. But then we went home, had a day of processing. We're like, okay, look at the bright side. She's coming back. She's coming out 1 week early. Like, I was still anxious. Let's just think we have 1 week and she will be with us. This is fantastic. So we went back, prepared the birth story. And then, because it was a planned C-section, it was very relaxed. I mean, the day before, we went to the hospital, had my COVID test and blood test. And then the next morning, it was scheduled for 11 a.m. So I had like a very long, nice sleep overnight, took a taxi to the hospital, checked in for my baby. And they only had 2 scheduled C-sections that day. So everything was just super relaxed and chill. And my doctor came in and she was like, hey, how are you doing? Let's get this little girl out. Everything was just very relaxed. And then, we went to the OR and with anesthesia. My husband came in and he was able to sit on my side throughout the surgery. And in the end, it's very quick. So I think I was under for 15 minutes and then the baby was out. And so I had asked, if we could see the baby when she came out, if they could put the monitors on my side and not on my chest so that she could be put on my chest right away. I'd asked, if we could do skin to skin. So I didn't have anything on my upper body. And then I had asked if they could delay, like whatever they could delay, they should delay. So no injections, no measurements, no nothing. And so she came out and we were a bit worried because, of people, so when they come out and they're not screaming and that's where it goes wrong. But I think she started screaming before they took her out from the bed. I could just hear that. And my OB took her up, showed me this girl, and then they took her to the warmer. My husband went there and cut the cord. And I just started crying. It was just this very strange feeling. Like when I just saw her, I felt sort of empty. Like, okay, so 2.5 years later, this is it. And then I just started crying. And then after 3 minutes, because my husband took a video when they put her on my chest. So we know that I didn't wait more than 3 minutes. And honestly, I spent 3 minutes crying. So probably it was even good that they waited those 3 minutes because I needed a moment for myself. And then they put her on my chest. And it was really, really magical because she was crying. And the moment they put her on my chest, she could recognize me. And she became completely calm. And they did the same a little bit later. I don't know how long, maybe 15 minutes I spent with her. They took her away to do some of the measurements, start crying, and they brought her back to me and she really calmed down. And so in the end, obviously, we were in an operation theater. It was cold, but I still feel like I just had her on my chest the entire time. She was like, I couldn't really sit up, so I couldn't breastfeed, but, she was sucking my chin. My husband was there with me. Everyone was just so kind and understanding. And honestly, it was actually a really magical golden hour, even if it was in that setting.
I love that. I so love that because I feel like, and I've said this in other podcasts about birth stories that are cesareans, but I feel like cesareans get like the evil stepsister. They're like, wah, wah, that's what, but it was so thoughtful. Everything seems so thoughtful. And it was empowering for you because you got to be there, clear-headed, aware. It just seems like it was a really positive, supportive place, especially based on how precarious things had been.
Yes, I think that's exactly what it was. I had been through all this pain, and then in the end, the birth was not. I was rested. I was in a good place. There were people there that cared about me. Everyone took the time just to understand what we wanted. I mean, even when they came over to take her finally to the measurements, they asked, like, how long do you need? When can we? Is it now okay, or do you want more time? And I agree. I had just not expected it to be like that. I didn't think that it would be possible to have it like that. But when it's a scheduled C-section and everyone has time, you can. And that was really beautiful.
And clearly that's the story that your daughter needed. And that's how it I love that. So if someone's listening right now and facing that different birth narrative, kind of like you had, you didn't really plan this. So maybe they're having, something different than they'd planned. What would you say to them?
I would say, based on my own experience and how I processed it, that they should try, if they can, to let it go and try and enjoy the last moments of pregnancy. I think sometimes I even missed a little bit having a belly, And I didn't realize until after this, actually a very special time in one's life. And I wish that maybe I had more time to enjoy it rather than being busy going to the chiropractor and lying upside down. So I would say, try and rather than spending your energy on trying to change that narrative, you should rather try and then spend that energy on shaping this new narrative in the way that you would like to become not what you originally thought, but something else that can also be beautiful.
I think that's so apropos for parenting, like often fighting what our child, and again, your child kind of showed this to you. You were like, I'm turning you. And she's like, no, you're not. And then, and accepting our kids as they are. And trust me, I'm not the best at this, but I try. But learning to work with what's presented in front of you instead of doing everything you can to fight it.
And also now, 8 months later, when I look back at everything, it was a small hiccup on the road, but it was not the end of the world. A C-section doesn't have to be this terrible thing. I think, especially in Europe where we do less C-sections, I think people perceive it as something extremely negative. But in the big picture, it's not, or at least it wasn't.
Yeah. Was she, when they took her out, did they notice, was like the cord wrapped in a certain way? Was she jammed in there in a certain, no, nothing?
No, I asked my OB at my postpartum visit, and she said that she had really thought about it. She was curious. She couldn't find any explanation.
Just stubborn. I love that. So tell me a little bit about how's postpartum been?
I think it's been really good. The first 6 weeks I found quite tough, just because I had some issues with lactation in the beginning to start breastfeeding. She couldn't latch on. And so in the end, the lactation consultants in the hospital put me on this triple feeding plan. And she was just very inefficient. So I felt like the first 6 to 8 weeks, I was just sitting with my breast out the entire day, either breastfeeding her for 45 minutes and then topping off with some pump milk and then pumping. I had to do that every time. So I found that quite exhausting. But thankfully, she started sleeping through the night on her own at 10 weeks. So we've actually been able to sleep, and my husband is working from home. So from the beginning, we were able to share the responsibilities quite a bit. So I've had very few of those days where you feel like everything is burning. I'm ready to throw my baby out the window. Like I felt like I really enjoyed it. And she's been she's very social and she's smiling a lot and is very agreeable. So we've just been able to bring her along to a lot of things and meet people and just enjoy it. So I've really had a wonderful time, actually. Almost sad to be back to work because it's been so great to have this time with her.
Do you ever look at her and just think like, wow, I needed to get past those other obstacles to get to meet you, that, to your daughter? Do you ever think that?
Yes, I think it often. Both. Sometimes when I look at her, I feel a bit like that emoji with the hard eyes.
The hard eyes, yeah.
My heart is sort of popping out of my eyes. But often I look at her and I think, but she is just so perfect. I had not in my wildest dreams thought that I could have a baby that was so perfect. So sometimes I think, well, maybe all of this just had to lead me to her.
Yeah. Yeah. I had 2 miscarriages between my kids, and my daughter, who just makes me laugh and smile, and I have such admiration for her. She is spicy and fun and just everything. I look at her and I'm like, I'm so glad that you are who you are. And I had to pass those other beings, had to not, it sounds awful, survive to get to who I have.
Yeah. I feel the same way. I think a lot of people that haven't experienced miscarriages themselves think that once you have a baby afterwards, that will sort of cancel out all the pain and that will make you forget. And I think, at least for me, I will never forget that. I would get past the pain. I would rather have been without the pain. But I have to say that now that I have her, it kind of, everything comes a bit together. And I think, I still feel the pain when I think back, but I also think that she is so precious and she's such a gift, and I couldn't have imagined anyone better. So maybe that's just how it had to be for me, just as her birth had to be the way it was. This is just how it all had to happen.
Oh, what a great way of digesting all that. Okay, we're going to take another break. When we come back, what is one final tip or piece of advice you would like to offer new and expectant parents? Okay, we'll be right back.
Hey there! Did you know Baker's always gives you savings and rewards on top of our lower than low prices? And when you download the Baker's app, you'll enjoy over $500 in savings every week with digital coupons. And don't forget fuel points to help you save up to $1 per gallon at the pump. Want to save even more? With a Boost membership, you'll get double fuel points and free delivery. So shop and save big at Baker's today. Baker's, fresh for everyone. Savings may vary by state. Restrictions apply. See site for details.
Okay, we're back. So, what is one final tip or piece of advice you'd like to offer new and expectant parents? It can really be anything, because you've really had quite a journey. I mean, like in this one conversation, we've talked about miscarriage, we've talked about breech babies and accepting that. We've talked about positive cesareans. We've talked about some difficulty with lactation. I mean, Rikki, you have a lot to share. So, what do you want to do?
I thought a lot about this. And I think what my one piece of advice, it's very simple, but I just noticed that a lot of couples feel like they have to pass through all the pain together. So more or less everyone knows both of them sleep in the bedroom with the newborn, and none of them sleep. Maybe the newborn sleeps on occasion, but that's still the person. And we just thought from the beginning that it would be better to divide and conquer and make sure, because both of us are very light sleepers and both of us become zombies when we don't sleep. So we thought that at least we had to do terms. And so because I was forced to start pumping from the beginning, my husband could give our baby a bottle from the beginning. So we actually, the first 8 weeks, had what we now call the baby boot camp. So we divided the nights into 2 shifts. So one person slept from 9 p.m. to 3 a.m. And then we switched at 3 a.m. to 9 a.m. So the person sleeping would be in the bedroom, and then the other person would be on the sofa with the baby in a bassinet somewhere. And at least for us, also with our experience being so anxious, I mean, I'm sure that all parents are super anxious when they go back from the hospital. But maybe we were even more anxious after our experience. So the fact that I could take 6 solid hours of consolidated sleep every night, knowing that the baby was safe with my husband, that really made a difference. Because when we were all trying to sleep together, we would just be thinking about, what are those sounds? Is she rolling over to her belly? Like we couldn't calm down. But having that sort of division where like you're taking care of her, I'm taking care of me now, I think that's what really helped us get through that first newborn periods. Both keeping it all together, but also enjoying, like having the energy to enjoy.
I love that. I actually have not heard people doing that. I mean, maybe they have, and I just haven't heard, but 6 hours for a newborn, that's a pretty good chunk of sleep to get.
It is.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
It was hard because we couldn't do things in the evening, but
yeah. Oh, wow. I like that. All right, listeners, you let me know if you like that too, because I like that. Oh, Rikki, I've so enjoyed this conversation. I appreciate your openness and your vulnerability to share of these challenges. And again, I want to thank you, because not only do I appreciate you opening up, but I think there's so many other people out there that have experienced at least one of the things you've experienced. You've had quite a gamut. And it makes, I think, people feel not so alone. And hearing you and how you got to the other side, I think can be really inspirational for those that are in the turbulence of it. So thank you for being part of our community and for your willingness to share. It really means a lot to me.
Thank you for having me.
You're so welcome.
This has been an episode of Yoga Birth Babies, produced by Prenatal Yoga Center. You can catch us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Periscope. I'm Deb Flaschenberg. Thanks for listening.
Hey there! Did you know Baker's always gives you savings and rewards on top of our lower than low prices? And when you download the Baker's app, you'll enjoy over $500 in savings every week with digital coupons. And don't forget fuel points to help you save up to $1 per gallon at the pump. Want to save even more? With a Boost membership, you'll get double fuel points and free delivery. So shop and save big at Baker's today. Baker's, fresh for everyone. Savings may vary by state. Restrictions apply. See site for details.